PacificVets.com, PacificVets.com.
Are you tired of hard chlorinated water drying your skin out, tasting bad, and ruining your fixtures? Jones Air and Water Treatment has a solution to this pollution. Our Hydratech H2O leaves you with great tasting, soft water at all fixtures in your home with one unit. Call Jones Air and Water at 636-899-1040 or visit us on the web at joneswater.com. You can be a filter or buy a filter. Jones Air and Water, 636-899-1040 or joneswater.com on the web. Call us now.
Hey, Colombo here for Rockwood Charcoal. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory, so you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
When Donald Trump needs conservative votes to help pass his agenda for Missouri, Representative Tricia Burns never answers the call. Tricia Burns has missed 370 votes. Burns is bucking President Trump's priorities. Burns did not vote to stop DEI initiatives, prevent China from owning Missouri land, defund Planned Parenthood, and Burns did not vote to ban boys from girls' sports. Tricia Burns not showing up for Missouri and President Trump. Instead, Tricia Burns spends her time pulling pranks on the suicide prevention hotline. Yes, you heard that right. Tricia Burns lied to the police and staged a fake suicide emergency. She sent a series of messages to the hotline and said she, quote, had a gun to her head, end quote. When she got caught, she said there'd be no consequences because she's a politician. By August 4th, vote to show Tricia Burns that there are consequences to being bad at your job. Cut the Bullpack paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
Extreme heat warning until 9 o'clock this evening, with the heat index readings up to 110 and higher in some cases. The high temperature today very close to 100. It is brutal out there. Now it's going to be slightly cooler tomorrow, but still very humid. The temperatures in the morning near 80. High temperatures tomorrow in the 90s. And again, that humidity is still very high. But Wednesday is when the drier air moves in, and it's going to feel really good. In the First Alert Weather Center, I'm KMOV meteorologist Kent Gerhardt.
This hour of Colombo and Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Hello and welcome to Colombo and Company. Here we go. A busy week starting off here, the last week of July, the last week before the all-important August primary elections here in the state of Missouri. That election day is 1 week from tomorrow. Holy. So we are going to continue to highlight the big, important issues that are going to be on the ballot for Missourians 1 week from tomorrow. There's a lot of statewide races and issues like Amendment 4 and 5 and Amendment 1 and, some of the other things that we've talked about. But there's also some hyper-local things, state reps or, various elections that only pertain to, specific counties. So there's so much on the line 1 week from today that, it really is important to understand what you're going to be voting on and the impact moving forward of these decisions, especially on things like Amendment 4 and Amendment 5. But, your state representation, county executive positions in St. Charles and St. Louis County. There's just so much happening and so much importance on this this vote next week. I want to remind you that we do have sample ballots up on our website, newstalkstl.com. You can go there. You could just put in your address, and then you can see exactly what's going to be on your ballot. So you know exactly the races, the things that you will be voting on. You can read the ballot language. You know, get a little bit of understanding of those things. But, also I highly advise that you participate. Educate yourself and participate in these elections because there is a lot on the line, and we're going to talk about it today and throughout the rest of the week. We also have a lot of things happening on the international stage, specifically as it surrounds the conflict with Iran. I want to get into that as we go through the afternoon today. Donald Trump is turning up pressure on the United States Senate to pass the Save America Act, which is still just sitting there untouched. And the president wants the United States Senate to vote on the Save America Act, basically at all costs, before the August break, before the Senate takes off for a couple weeks here in a couple weeks, which is another whole thing. But, yeah, and, he's got some support, he's got some pushback, and that's causing some turmoil as well. So I want to talk about that as we go through the afternoon. In fact, today kind of feels like this week kind of already feels like a week where we're right on the cusp. I feel like we are at a point in time right now where we're right on the cusp of some major decisions, and those decisions, those major decisions, will come with major consequences. Obviously, the elections in 1 week. That's we're right on the cusp of making those decisions and the impact that will be felt from what Missouri voters decide. But I feel like we are right at that turning point also with Iran, and I'll dig into that a little bit as we go through the afternoon. I'll kind of explain that, but I feel like we are, right at a spot where it's pick a path. It's either going to be a massive military operation or something else. And I know I've said this before, but I feel like we are at the end of the line of whatever stage this is. Something's about to change in a big way. And you can also say that with some of these issues that are happening in Congress and the Senate. That it's time to make some decisions. So I feel like this week we are at a critical point of change. And we're going to try to cover all of it for you as we go through the afternoon and we go through the week. Speaking of those local elections, in the 3 o'clock hour today, in about an hour and a half from now, we are going to talk to Missouri State Representative Travis Wilson, who is not only a part of these elections in August, but then also, somebody who's extremely engaged and informed about the statewide issues like Amendment 4 and 5. And so we're going to talk to Representative Wilson about next week's elections in the 3 o'clock hour. Also in the 3 o'clock hour, we're going to talk to our law enforcement expert, former Missouri State Representative Justin Sparks. In about 25 minutes from now or so, we're going to talk to Paul CURTMAN from PR CURTMAN Investments. We talk to Paul every Monday afternoon to get the beginning of the week market check and economy check, so that's always good. And as we kick things off on this busy Monday afternoon, we start the week, as we always do, with someone who can hopefully provide some common sense, some rational thinking to all of the craziness in this world. And that, of course, is News Talk STL contributor, the former co-host of Mike Ferguson in the Morning, the great Gabe PHIFER. Gabriel, hello.
Happy Monday, my friend.
Happy Monday to you as well. Do you have that same feeling that we are kind of at a point here that something's got to give? Like, we can't just keep, when it comes to when it comes to major issues like the SAVE Act that we've been talking about for literally months, if not year plus at this point, when it comes to the conflict in Iran, obviously Election Day right around the corner. Do you get that feeling that we are right on the cusp of making, use it or lose it? It's time to make a change. It's time to do something different. And I feel like, we're right there. Do you feel that as well?
Yeah, we do seem to be reaching an inflection point when it comes to some of these things. But I mean, it kind of seems that way with a lot of issues. I mean, even in the overall grand scheme of the direction of the country, it feels as though we are inching our way towards that one crucial moment in history where we're going to turn one way or another, inexorably, towards that final destination. And it's tough to gauge. It kind of reminds me of like when you look back at raising your kids. Every single day obviously is a gift with your kids, but and every single hour that you spend with them is great and it's awesome. But you never think this is the last time my little boy or my little girl is going to ask for uppies, right? But you hit that day. That day comes and you miss it. And this is the last day my little boy's going to ask me to go play in the backyard. Like there's going to be a day and that doesn't happen anymore. So we're coming upon a day when, the choice that we make politically is the last choice we're going to make on that issue. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
There's going to come a point there. I can't tell you it's this one. I can't tell you it's this election or this year or maybe the next election cycle. But it feels like we're getting close.
Yes. That's a great way to explain it. Also, one of the saddest analogies to use in that.
Yes, absolutely.
I've heard that many times, and it's so true. But it's also very sad. Like, one day you will hold, you'll hold your kid for the last time, but you won't know. You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know it's the last time.
Yeah.
But there is one day you'll pick up. It'll be the last day that you pick up, your kid as they get older. But yeah, I well said. I do feel like we are at a point where things have got to change, and I feel like, conditions have brought us there. Just the natural path has brought us there. But I also feel like that public sentiment, that we in general are ready. We're done we're done specifically in Iran with this and some of the other things like the SAVE Act, some of the other issues in government. Not only have we just kind of naturally gotten to this position where it's time to make some decisions, but I feel like voters and U.S. citizens are sick of where we're at right now and are demanding that change be enacted. You agree?
Yes, and I'm hoping that creates a momentum for actual changes in government, because the fact that the SAVE Act hasn't already been passed, that to me is an indicator that the incentive system the incentives in our political system are misaligned, because it's the whole thing about politics is in a republic is you're supposed to gravitate towards policies that split the difference between popularity and prudence. And the incentive structure is supposed to be such that it pushes you that way. You want to do something that will have a positive effect on the country. That's the prudence, and you want to do something that people are going to vote for ultimately because of the democratic aspect of the system. So popularity and prudence are supposed to govern the way politicians go through their political issues. And the SAVE Act is ridiculously good on both of those fronts. It's popular and prudent. So why isn't it already done?
Oh, yeah. And how has it not already been done? How has this not happened yet? And this is why I constantly roll my eyes at Congress, because we've seen, multiple times during this war with Iran, attempts by almost exclusively Democrats to stop, put it into the president's, powers when it comes to military action, or, say that, that Congress needs to be involved in any decisions that are being made and any actions that are being taken. And while it, honestly, at a basic level, without all the context and understanding of today's politics, that sounds like a decent, a common sense, a pretty good way to go about it. That there's more. There's more.
The constitutional way.
Yeah, it's not just one. It's not just one. It's not one person's decision to make all of to make all these calls. But the reality of the situation is, if we were waiting on Congress to do anything, I mean, oh my goodness, like, can you even imagine? Like, especially when there's been these critical moments, like taking out the Ayatollah or the Maduro capture, when, things need to be, happen in a blink of an eye, and you got to be quick and prepared and make fast decisions. You're going to assemble Congress and have a vote. Right? They can't, because to your point, they can't even they can't even vote on the SAVE Act, let alone all of these other issues. And they're getting ready to go on vacation. I mean, give me a break with these people. It's a great
terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's a great point, actually. That's where I want to pick it up, because there is, as I mentioned earlier, there is some news today, as the president has made a statement directing the United States Senate to act on the SAVE Act before that August recess, calling on John Thune to do everything that he has to do to make that happen. So let's fill you in on those details as we continue the conversation with News Talk STL contributor Gabe PHIFER next here on Colombo and Company.
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL. If you have a phone, you have a radio. Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
And listen anytime, anywhere.
Weber Chevrolet, 3 locations around town to serve you. Creve Coeur in Missouri, Granite City, and Columbia in Illinois. Nobody is going to treat you better. Take care of you and the vehicle that you get from them for the entire time that you have it better than Weber Chevrolet. It's not just, sell you a car, get you out the door, and move on to the next one. It's taking care of you in that vehicle for the entire time that you have it, the customer service that comes along with that. That is why Weber Chevrolet, for years, decades, literally decades, have been ranked number 1 when it comes to reputation scores or customer service ratings. Next year, they turn 125 years old. For half the time that the United States has been a country, the Weber family has been serving the St. Louis area. That is just an incredible stat. And, of course, you don't stick around in the same community for that long if you are not doing right by your customers and not, doing right by that community. So if you're looking for a new vehicle, nobody's going to give you a better price, nobody's going to give you more on your trade-in, and nobody is going to take care of you in that vehicle for the entire time that you have it better than the team at Weber Chevrolet. Check out what's happening at all 3 dealerships by going to WeberChevrolet.com.
When Donald Trump needs conservative votes to help pass his agenda for Missouri, Representative Tricia Burns never answers the call. Tricia Burns has missed 370 votes. Burns is bucking President Trump's priorities. Burns did not vote to stop DEI initiatives, prevent China from owning Missouri land, defund Planned Parenthood, and Burns did not vote to ban boys from girls' sports. Tricia Burns not showing up for Missouri and President Trump. Instead, Trisha Burns spends her time pulling pranks on the suicide prevention hotline. Yes, you heard that right. Trisha Burns lied to the police and staged a fake suicide emergency. She sent a series of messages to the hotline and said she, quote, had a gun to her head, end quote. When she got caught, she said there'd be no consequences because she's a politician. By August 4th, vote to show Trisha Burns that there are consequences to being bad at your job.
Let's Go Brandon PAC paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Chris Foss, Treasurer.
Public schools, like public libraries, should be free and open to all. Open enrollment allows parents to choose the school that's the best fit for their children. Maybe another school has a wider curriculum, is bigger or smaller. Maybe a kid is being bullied and would be more comfortable at another school. 75% of parents favor open enrollment. Open enrollment programs now exist in 43 states, and Missouri should join them. Our next-door neighbor, Kansas, has one of the strongest open enrollment policies in the nation. Kansas parents are trusted with choices and options, while Missouri parents must move out of their home to change public schools. And it's a trend. Nationwide, the percentage of students going to their chosen public school has steadily increased. Assigning kids to schools based on their zip code is the old way. Open enrollment is a better way. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
With Larry Connors USA, you get news, analysis, commentary, education, and the story behind the story.
Larry Connors USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. This hour of Colombo Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Talking to Gabe PHIFER, News Talk STL contributor, former co-host of Mike Ferguson in the Morning, right here on News Talk STL. Talking about the SAVE Act, and you know this has been Trump's number one priority, his top piece of legislation, and it is still not gotten across the finish line for a number of reasons. Democrats filibustering, Republicans being split on some of the things that are in there. In fact, Trump wants soon to end the filibuster, which has been a big part of this debate as well. So that's wrapped up in here. Some of the Republicans don't like all the things that the president has thrown in. We know all these things. We've talked about them a million times. But the bottom line is, Gabe, is there still hasn't been action taken on what seems to be a very popular and common sense piece of legislation that you should have your ID when you vote. Even many liberals don't have a problem with that, despite what the Democrats and the media tell you. The vast majority of Americans do not have a problem with the idea of showing your ID when you vote. But the frustration continues. How do you have any confidence that this renewed push by the president, and I'll read some of his statements here in a minute, but this new demand that the president has issued to John Thune and Republicans in the Senate to get things done is actually going to get things done? Because he's certainly called on them to act on this.
I'm not sure
Go ahead.
I'm not sure the public demand is going to do much. If there is some behind the scenes stuff that kind of goes along hand in hand with the public demand, maybe there's always a possibility that somebody gets grabbed by the gonads and said, okay, you're going to vote this way, or else your money's going down the tubes or whatever. Whatever the incentives are that seems to be running politics right now. Maybe Trump has something on some of these people enough to get them moving. But my goodness, the idea that someone can look at the SAVE Act and say, I don't know if we want to do this, and they call themselves a Republican. I don't understand. Like I said, it's incredibly popular. You mentioned that. Not just with with Republicans, but kind of across the board or demographically across the board. It's incredibly popular. It's extremely correct in the major aspects of the laws that are proposed here. Now, granted, there might be some of these little silly things in there, but we seem to have gotten past the point of expecting there not to be some silly things in our bills. But what the one thing that I'm not understanding, particularly, is the Republican opposition to this, considering that it's essentially, at least the Democrats are signaling this, it's essentially an existential crisis politically for Republicans to make sure that the Democrats can't cheat as much as they're signaling they want to cheat. The Democrats are saying these things very openly. They're like, you know what? If illegal immigrants can't vote, we're not going to be able to win elections anymore. They're saying these things right out loud in front of crowds. There's recordings of it.
On the heels. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. So here's the thing: if you're a Republican and you're like, okay, I'm not so sure about the SAVE Act, except for the fact that the Democrats are pinning their entire electoral future on it not passing. Maybe I should pass it.
Yeah, and this all on the heels of more evidence than ever over the last several months of mostly Democrats. Now, have Republicans ever tried to cheat on an election? Absolutely.
I'm sure.
Has a dead person ever voted for a Republican? I'm 100% positive. But there's no doubt about it that the most fraud in recent years has been exposed on the left. And so with all of this knowledge and the facts about how much this has been happening, it's still not enough. It's still not enough to push this across the finish line. And, you touched on some of the, the mail-in voting part of this is one of the sort of internal Republican issues. They don't want, some Republicans just want it to be a clean, just ID bill. But there's a couple other pieces in there that are also pretty, in my opinion at least, common sense and certainly not enough to hold this up. But that's just my opinion. But that's, that's
arguable
part of this. Yeah. And, what, I don't know. This is also the the long-running sort of internal conflict of the Republican Party, because Republicans more often will just dig their heels in and oppose, their own side on certain things if they feel like something's gone too far, whereas Democrats very famously shut their mouths, fall in line, and do what they're told. And that's why they are that's why many times they're more successful in moving legislation than Republicans. And, it's a catch-22 because it means that they're getting more things accomplished and Republicans aren't. But at the same time, you don't want or I don't at least want politicians that just shut up, fall in line, and do what they're told. So, but I do feel like I do feel like the resistance to this has been way too much, and this should have been, when we're talking about this specific issue, it needs to get done. So just to catch you up here on the latest, a lot of this coming from a Fox News report today, but also Axios and a couple other places. This is, they're talking about this all over the place. President Donald Trump doesn't want the Senate to leave town with his flagship election security measure still on the line. It's less than 2 weeks until the upper chamber makes its jailbreak from Washington, D.C., and the schedule is already jam-packed with key items. Yeah. I'm sure they're so busy. Like, let's, maybe they're busy, but let's see if they get anything done. Let's see if they get anything done. But only one legislative priority matters to the president. That, of course, is the Save America Act. And despite the political reality in the Senate, the president wants the bill passed by any means necessary. putting out a statement on Truth Social today. He said, the president said, quote, John Thune should not allow the United States Senate to leave town until it passes the Save America Act, or far better still, terminates the filibuster, where Republicans can then quickly pass everything they ever dreamed of, including a full and deep-throated Save America Act, the budget, and the ever-looming debt ceiling disaster. He went on to say, quote, the Democrats will do, the Democrats will do, with a U, which when I was writing out my notes, my computer definitely tried over and over to correct the spelling, but that's how it was written. The Democrats will do it on day one, and can't believe how lucky they got with this Senate leadership. Remember, stupidity always brings losing and death, and losing and death is all caps in the statement on Truth Social. So, President also calling out the filibuster.
All caps.
Yeah, right. I think it's a bad idea to blow up in the filibuster. I'm one of the last people holding on to this. I know. But
for the future, there's an issue there. But
that aside, and again, I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, well, if Save America Act doesn't go, then maybe we don't have a future where the filibuster means anything.
Yeah, but I also am not positive that ending the filibuster would automatically, because there's internal issues with certain Republicans on the Save America Act. So I don't think it's a guarantee that it would just, happen. I would hope, but I don't think it's necessarily a guarantee. But the president is demanding this happen. I think America is just extremely frustrated overall with things like what's happening in Iran, as we touched on at the beginning, what's happening with the Save America Act. But at the end of the day, is it going to change anything? Do you have any faith that the Senate will actually get something accomplished on the Save Act before they leave town in a couple weeks?
They haven't given me any indication to say that I should believe that they'll do the right thing.
Yeah.
No, I can't say. Yeah, I mean, I can have a pie in the sky wish. Like maybe they'll come in to, maybe they'll hit that grand slam in the ninth inning and walk off with the win. But it's looking bad right now.
Can I also just say that there's a part of one of these reports that talks about the break, and it says, while Congress's annual break during August is often viewed outside the Beltway as vacation time for lawmakers, during a midterm election year, it allows for crucial hours on the road for incumbents to have face-to-face time with voters and make their pitch to keep their seat. So many Republicans are hungry to get on the campaign trail. You know what? Mm-hmm. Don't try to make excuses. They need to do their job, and if they
stop being a selfish
when they go on, when they are gone, when they go on the spring recess and the August recess and all of these vacations while things are not getting accomplished, please don't try to make excuses, because they are not doing their job in my humble opinion, at least. But
they're definitely not. No.
Yeah, we will see. We will see how this shapes up over the next couple of weeks. But today, President Trump demanding that the Senate act on the SAVE Act before the August recess, quote, by any means necessary, up to and including blowing up the filibuster. So we'll see how it all plays out. Gabe PHIFER.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, thank you as always for your time, my friend. Great conversation, and have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Dad. God bless.
Yeah, back at you, buddy. All right, we are going to get you an update on what is happening, the latest coming out of the conflict with Iran, and the impact that it is or maybe isn't having on the markets and the world economy in general, as we get our start of the week market check from Paul CURTMAN from PR CURTMAN Investments next here on Colombo Company.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com. News, analysis, opinion.
Don't always agree, but in love listening to your radio station.
This is tyrannical stuff they're doing.
Elections have consequences. This is 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
When decisions matter most, experience isn't optional. As a former SWAT commander, Tim Whitney has led under pressure. Today, as undersheriff and chief financial officer, he helps lead hundreds of employees, manages one of the county's largest budgets, and protects taxpayers with conservative accountability.
I'm Tim Whitney, and I'd be honored to earn your vote. Together we can support responsible growth, strengthen public safety, protect taxpayers, and preserve the character that makes Jefferson County home.
Paid for by friends of Tim Whitney. Heather Missy, treasurer.
Hey, it's Mike Ferguson. Mario's Donut Restaurant, that's your place to go for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. From mouth-watering sandwiches, omelets, delicious gyros, and Mexican dishes, to their revamped menu with cannolis, tiramisu, baklava, and danishes. And don't forget those famous donuts. Dine in or carry out, Mario's friendly staff is ready to serve you with love and care. Mention News Talk STL when you visit, or just visit mariosdonutrestaurant.com.
Bill, you're an old politician.
Yup, sure am.
So you know the old-timers warned that someone trying to sell you a pig in a poke was a con man.
Well, sure.
Well, no offense, Tom, but your politician's Amendment 5 is a pig in a poke, allowing politicians to raise our taxes without a vote of the people. And the politician's Amendment 4 takes away our power to do anything about it. Well, let's look at what's really inside Forward 5.
Oh, don't do that.
5 hits hardest seniors and those struggling financially with new taxes on services like doctor visits, in-home care, and rent. Sales taxes could more than triple. For up to 80% of Missourians, it's a tax hike. And Amendment 4 ends majority rule, allowing a minority of the most liberal statewide voters in one district to effectively end our power to stop corruption and out-of-control spending and taxing.
Slick plan, huh?
No, Tom. 4 and 5 are schemes that hurt citizens and transfer our power and our money to politicians and lobbyists. That's why I'm voting no on the politicians' Amendments 4 and 5, paid for by Missourians for Fair Governance.
Paul Curtman's Financial Update is brought to you by PR Curtman Investments, providing customized strategic guidance to help you build and protect your wealth. Learn more at prcurtman.com.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. Great conversation with Gabe PHIFER in that last segment. Coming up, we're going to talk to Missouri State Representative Travis Wilson about the upcoming elections, the primary elections here in Missouri that are 1 week from tomorrow. Also, former Missouri State Representative, our law enforcement expert, Justin Sparks, in the 3 o'clock hour. And right now, joining us on the line, as he does every Monday at this time, also former Missouri State Representative, our financial economic expert here on Colombo and Company, Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments. Paul, as always, thank you for your time. And I don't know, but there's a weird feeling in the air. I feel like there's a lot happening, that we're right on the cusp of some impactful decisions or actions being taken around the world. So I don't know if there's anything happening yet, but I feel like we're right on the edge of like some big news. How are you feeling, and what are things looking like as we kick off this final week of July?
Yeah, wow, that's actually that's a good way to put it. There's kind of this feeling that you just can't shake because there's just so much happening right now, and we're inching closer and closer and closer to the primary election, of course. And in Missouri, you know, not just candidates on the ballot, but there's some pretty important amendments.
Yeah,
you know,
I said at the beginning, like,
others.
That's for sure going to happen. Like, the election is a week from tomorrow, and that's going to have a major impact and kind of change the conversation in certain ways. I'm sure, in some areas for good and in some areas for bad. So that's part of this. But I just also feel like, and I said this at the beginning of the show, that when it comes to Iran, when it comes to some of the issues like we just talked about the SAVE Act with Gabe PHIFER and how Trump is pressuring Republicans to act on the SAVE Act before the August recess in a couple of weeks. I just feel like overall we're right on the cusp. Like something's going to give in Iran. Like I just feel like we're at that point where, we got to start going to the next step, whether it's massive military or not, I don't know, but something's got to happen. I feel like that with Iran and some of the other issues happening, along with the elections that are right around the corner. So that's where this sort of feeling comes from. But I don't know. Is it something you're feeling as well? And maybe we're all kind of on that like waiting to see where the next shoe is going to drop.
Yeah, I think it is. And I think that even in my line of work, when you're looking at the markets, you can see the markets kind of. Sometimes you look at a chart and you think to yourself, I feel like this chart knows something that I don't know, or maybe it's waiting to find out just like I am. So like right now, if you look at the indexes today, the S&P 500, the Dow Jones Industrial Average are both up. The NASDAQ's down. Crude oil is down. Over the weekend, we're like 3 days into what could be a 13-day ceasefire if we make it that far. But then you got Iran today saying we control when the Straits of Hormuz open up. So it doesn't seem like Iran is beginning to come to the table with, hey, let's work together to resolve this. It sounds like they very much want to be in control. And I think that that's to be expected. And so when you have all these different issues with Iran and plus all the domestic issues, and then like I said a minute ago, bring it even closer to home, all the things on the local ballot that's just a couple weeks away. I mean, we are it feels like the world and even our neighborhoods are getting into crunch time where some big decisions about ready to be made that could not just change the way we live and work in Missouri, but the way we live and work and have to interact with the global economy based on what's happening worldwide. So yeah, I agree. I think that, sometimes you approach election season and it's like, yeah, we're ready for this. We've been waiting for this. The campaign mailers are bringing everything to a head, but now there's things that are happening right now that we already know are going to have a much bigger, long-standing impact. Once we're on the other side of it, things are different and they might not ever be the same. So I'm with you on that. I think that that's kind of this feeling right now. This to kind of relate it to the markets, like right now, what's happening this week alone. Not only do we have this pause that we're into, this ceasefire that we're into with Iran, where I always feel like the White House is like, we're coming to the table, and Iran's always like, well, we're not coming all the way.
Yes.
They're definitely resistant, and so it kind of shakes your confidence a little bit. Like, are we really, should we be as optimistic as the White House says that we should be? So we have that. This week also, this is going to be a big week for AI because this week we have some major companies in the tech sector that are announcing their earnings. And of course, they do this every quarter. But the more that we've kind of been into this AI investment era, the more the market is beginning to wonder, is the payoff going to be as big as we think it's going to be? So this week alone, you have companies like Microsoft, Meta, or Facebook, as most people know it, Amazon, Apple. We have a lot of some of these main drivers in AI investment who this week on Wednesday and Tuesday and Thursday predominantly are going to be releasing their earnings reports. And so the market's going to be looking to say, hey, all this money has been being invested into AI. We want to see if these companies that are making these massive investments, we want to see if their investments are beginning to pay off. And this is so important because over the last year or two, as the markets have been pushed up north, into the direction that we all love to see them go, a lot of that lift has been on the shoulders of these tech companies that have been making large investments in AI. And so this is going to be a big week for AI. It's going to be a big week for what happens with Iran. It's also going to be a big week potentially for what happens with the Federal Reserve, because we have the inflationary pressures of oil and energy, especially what's going on with the Straits of Hormuz. That does create inflationary pressure. It's great that oil's down today. I think that people are confident. I think the markets are confident again about what might happen with Iran and keeping these straits open. But if they don't and oil goes up, that's going to create inflationary pressure. So the Federal Reserve is meeting this week. And of course, they're going to make the decisions on what to do with interest rates because one of their mandates has to do with inflation, helping control inflation. And so the Fed, technology sector, and of course Iran, three big things that are happening this week alone globally that have all kinds of ripple effects in terms of policy and foreign policy and domestic policy, but also have everything to do with people that are just watching their 401ks one week after the other as they approach retirement. So like everybody, should be invested in the things that are going on this week in the headlines.
I didn't even know those things, and it just proves my gut feeling about this week even more correct, that we are right on the precipice of all of these things. This sounds like one of those weeks, Paul, where we might be calling you again. So just a little bit of a warning on that. And the AI aspect and big tech aspect with these major tech companies reporting their earnings this week is a perfect for our conversation tomorrow. Every Tuesday we talk to our AI expert, Mike McCleary from Intervine. He may be putting in a little double time this week as well, as we keep an eye on all those things. So I want to talk about, Paul, what we think might happen when these decisions are made, when these actions happen, if there is a major military act in Iran, if we change things there, or whatever these reports come out, whatever. But before we get there, in the meantime, in these few days, a week, however long it takes before all of the dominoes start to fall here, what is the move for investors, for the market in general? Is it just brace yourself and then react to whatever happens, or there's something to do, moves to be made now to prepare for this impending change?
Okay, so that's a really, really good question. And that question is I believe, what is at the heart of most investors' concerns with what's going to happen tomorrow, next month, or next year. Should they be making any changes right now? What should they be, like you said, should they just be bracing for it? And here's what I would tell people, and this is good for everybody who's got money and you're looking at investing, or maybe you're already invested. It is never a good idea to approach an uncertain future with a deep well of uncertainty, if you can start filling that well in, so you can actually begin to see the bottom, as it were, so you can actually have some certainty about what could happen, right? So going into the next few weeks with elections, with Iran, with what's happening in the technology sector, one good thing that anybody can do right now is they can just visit with a financial professional and they can reassess their tolerance for risk, because right now people might start feeling a little bit more skittish. They might not want to be as aggressive as they were 6 months ago. And so one thing that people might want to do is just reevaluate how aggressive they want to be in the market, because if their tolerance for risk has changed, then it's very likely that your strategy might also need to change. But you won't know that unless you can reevaluate your tolerance for risk. Now, financial professionals, investment advisors, and financial advisors, they have tools that will help you assess your tolerance for risk. And this is so important, Tony, because people should be able to go to sleep at night with some peace of mind that they have a strategy for what might happen tomorrow. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but we know that things are likely to happen because things always happen I don't know of a single day when politicians around the world just decided to take a few days off. So things are going to happen, and it could catch you by surprise. But what you can do is you can prepare for uncertainty by having a strategy that that will give you a sense of peace. This is one thing that I think a lot of advisors don't tell their people, that I really think should be part of that initial meeting when they first begin to meet with somebody. As an investment advisor myself, and this is what I like to tell people, I'm not an investment dictator. I'm an investment advisor. So I'm going to give you strong recommendations, right? But at the end of the day, you have to make decisions about how aggressive you want to be in the market. And if you know that elections are coming up, another party might take over the House of Representatives or the White House, or we might see this war begin to move throughout the region in the Middle East, and maybe you begin to feel a little bit concerned because you're approaching retirement, and suddenly you're like, what's going to happen if all my money is in the market and the market goes down 20%? Listen, you can plan and prepare and create a strategy, and that strategy should give you peace of mind that no matter what happens in the market, you have a good relative expectation of how your portfolio might respond to it, whether it's up or down. So people need to have peace of mind. So right now, what you're talking about all this anxiety that kind of seems to be building and mounting, there is a way that you can do a lot to cut that off in terms of how your money is invested. And I think this is really important for people that are just about to retire, because these are people that have been working for decades. And if they begin to feel a little nervous or a little anxious, it's a terrible thing to go to sleep, wondering if you're still going to be able to retire tomorrow. Get with somebody, give me a call. I help people figure that part out just for free, the risk assessment. Get with somebody and get that figured out, because you can get the peace of mind about that within a matter of 24 hours. And so there's no point in waiting. Just get that taken care of, just so you can lose a little bit of that anxiety and get a little relief and a little peace of mind.
More important now than ever to have that professional help on your financial journey. And for my money, Paul and his team are absolutely the best. Paul Curtman at PR Curtman Investments. Paul, we only have a little more than a minute left here, so we can't get into the details of it, but just in general, your gut, as we talk about these big decisions that are coming up, what's worse for the economy and for the markets in general with Iran? A switch to a major military action, or just kind of keeping it where it is with negotiations as usual? Which is a worse path, in your opinion, for the economy? 60 seconds.
Okay. Oh, man.
I know.
Okay. So that's a little bit difficult because markets don't like uncertainty. But here's the thing about both those scenarios. Both of those scenarios could breed uncertainty. If people don't see an end in sight, that's going to breed uncertainty. If people see us putting troops on the ground in Iran, well, that's going to breed uncertainty too, because we were told 5 months. And last time we put troops on the ground in a Middle Eastern country, we were there for 20 years. So I think that both of those could breed uncertainty initially, but eventually the market finds a way to adjust. It will adapt to the climate, and the market will still continue to find a way forward as people find a path towards regaining some confidence in the market. So initially, I think both of those could potentially not reflect well in the market, but again, we'll just have to wait and see.
I definitely feel like this is a week where we could be talking to Paul more than once. But Paul, as always, really appreciate your time. As always, great stuff. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Tony.
You bet. Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments. I want to dig into some of those issues happening with Iran and more as we continue the conversation with our law enforcement expert, Justin Sparks, next.
You never know who you'll run into at Sugar Creek Golf Course. Stop by the News Talk VIP Lounge inside the Sugar Creek Clubhouse and catch familiar faces like Jamie Allman, Mike Ferguson, Tim Jones, Nick Schroer, and more from the News Talk STL team. Grab a cold drink, say hello, and take in the atmosphere. And before you leave, swing by the Pro Shop to pick up your official News Talk STL polo. The Sugar Creek Pro Shop is the only place you can get one. It's all happening at Sugar Creek, so don't miss it.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote quality Christ-centered K-12 education nationwide.
Hi, this is Chris Stegall with the Herzog Foundation. We offer a wide variety of resources relevant to today's families, including a free online publication called The Lion. The lion is one of God's most majestic creatures, symbolizing strength and courage. Named for its attributes, the Lion publication carries articles covering a wide range of topics facing American families and culture, especially related to the education of children. The Lion can be found online at readlion.com. That's READ lion.com.
Sign up for The Lion at readlion.com and find dozens of must-read articles published every day. Visit readlion.com and subscribe for the weekly and daily digests so you never miss an article. Readlion.com. That's readlion.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for my good friend Harry Parker and the ultimate seafood dining experience at Gulf Shores, GulfShoresRestaurantandGrill.com. Gulf Shores offering a unique dining experience with a vast, mouth-watering menu of all of your favorite delicious dishes, something for everyone's taste or palate. 3 convenient locations, Edwardville, Creve Coeur, and St. Peter's. Dine in, carry out. They've got a food truck, too. Friendly staff. Looking forward to seeing you, making your dining experience one you will remember. Gulf Shores, restaurantandgrill.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. Mediators have made some progress in efforts to bring the U.S. and Iran back to the negotiating table. Scattered attacks by armed groups across the region underscore the lingering tensions, and neither the U.S. nor Iran have claimed any strikes for 3 days. In Plymouth, Massachusetts today, the trial got underway for a woman who claims postpartum psychosis drove her to kill her 3 children. District Attorney Shannon Buckingham says Lindsay Clancy knew what she was doing when she killed the kids.
They were strangled, deliberately and meticulously killed by this defendant on January 24th of 2023. One by one, she wrapped exercise bands around each one of the kids' necks and pulled until their little bodies were limp and lifeless.
Police searched for a second suspect today after gunfire erupted at a crowded food festival beneath Seattle's Space Needle yesterday, leaving 3 people dead. Festival goer Brian Barker.
I realized it was semi-automatic. Probably it sounded like a switch. I looked to my left. I saw at least one individual with a switch, semi-automatic. I saw another one that was 2. That's when I heard over that those shots fired. That's when I took off around the corner.
Another suspect was arrested earlier. Investigators believe the 2 were shooting at one another. Even though one remained on the loose, they did not give a description. Some new comments from a Democratic Socialist of America leader now drawing a lot of attention. Willie Nelson reports.
Democratic Socialists of America co-chair Megan Romer says the organization's long-term platform includes abolishing borders, granting amnesty to illegal aliens, eliminating ICE in prisons, and abolishing the Senate, presidency, and Supreme Court. Republicans say the remarks underscore what they describe as the increasingly radical direction of the Democratic Socialist movement. Willie Nelson, The White House.
And more on these stories at townhall.com.
In the War of 1812, our nation fought and won America's religious freedom. Today, that constitutional right is being assaulted once more from within.
Religious liberty and rights in general were under attack. We all of a sudden became the enemy.
In the important new documentary by Dawn's Early Light, anti-Christian bias is exposed at the highest levels of government.
I got 6 months house arrest, 5 years probation.
I'm sorry, our rights have been suspended? Hard to believe that the instruments of government would ever be used to punish faith.
Follow the sweeping investigation of President Trump's task force to eradicate anti-Christian bias. The governmental hostility and prejudice is uncovered, and Trump's fight to restore our constitutional liberties and religious freedom.
If we will not be governed by God, we must be governed by tyrants.
Don't miss this powerful new documentary by Dawn's Early Light, the story behind our national anthem. Share it with your church, family, and friends. For a limited time, watch it free at ByDawnsEarlyLightFilm.com. ByDawnsEarlyLightFilm.com.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. The dangerous heat continues through this evening. Even a chance for a strong storm or 2 to develop. It's a low chance, but we'll have to be on guard for that. Otherwise, a low of 81 degrees. A high of 91 is not as extreme on Tuesday, but with the high humidity, the heat index yet again near 100 degrees, a little hotter to the south, a little cooler to the north. So First Alert Weather Day will continue. Even could see an isolated storm on Tuesday. Otherwise, it's all about the heat, but major relief comes Wednesday. Mostly sunny, 88 and low humidity. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Business owners, download your free playbook for financial clarity at SerenityWealthBiz.com. That's SerenityWealthBiz.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
News, analysis, opinion.
We attacked Cargo Island last night. There's not a thing they can do about it. They'll agree on everything, and then they'll go and have a news conference and say we never even talked about it. They're cuckoo.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. Great conversations in the 2 o'clock hour there with News Talk STL contributor Gabe PHIFER and our economic expert Paul CURTMAN from PR CURTMAN Investments. Make sure you are subscribed to our podcast if you missed any of those conversations, because we put the show out as a podcast right after we get off the air every day. Put it on basically every podcast platform. So, wherever you get podcasts on that platform, just subscribe to Colombo & Company, and you'll never miss any of the great conversations that we have here. I didn't mention this yet, but, be careful out there. It's another crazy hot day. As I just checked, the heat index currently is 111, 111. Temperature's 97. Yesterday, I saw 121 as a heat index at it was 4:30 in the afternoon. Holy moly. Kristen Cornett from Channel 4, meteorologist, she warned us on Friday during the forecast that it was going to get crazy hot, but especially yesterday and today, just be safe out there. All right, we are continuing the conversation here in this 3 o'clock hour. We are going to get into the local primary elections that are 1 week from tomorrow in about 35 minutes, when we're joined in studio by Missouri State Representative Travis Wilson. Right now, we are going to be joined by former Missouri State Representative, our law enforcement expert here on Colombo & Company, Justin Sparks is with us. Justin, how are you on this busy Monday?
Hot.
Yes. Hot. Oh, man. Tell me about it. I'm an idiot. I've been doing some yard work lately. My whoever owned my house before I did had a lot of projects that they started in the backyard and never finished. And so I've been tearing a lot of these things down over the last few years. And I, of course, wait till the hottest days of the year to pull out this old garden box, and now there's a big patch of dirt. It looks like a grave, literally, in my backyard. And so I'm trying to I planted grass 3 days. I'm trying to grow grass in this monster heat. What an idiot. But yeah, it is a lot out there. Hopefully it gets a little bit better as the week goes on, but be safe out there in this heat. In the 2 o'clock hour, I started the show with this, and I didn't even really mean to. It just kind of hit me all at once, and then I brought it up with Gabe and Paul. I want to get your thoughts if you feel this way too. I feel like right now we are across the board, locally, nationally, internationally. I feel like right now, this last week of July, we are at a turning point. We are right on the cusp of things changing. We know that's going to happen with the elections in a week. We know there's going to be fallout and impact from whatever decisions Missouri voters make a week from tomorrow. So that's definitely the case, there. But I also feel like we're right on the cusp of, something breaking in Iran. Whether it be a massive military action or something else, I feel like we're about to make a change, that the current path is coming to an end. I feel like that with some of the issues that they're dealing with in the Senate. As we saw today, Trump insisting that Republicans in the Senate address the SAVE Act before the August recess in a couple weeks. So I just feel like we're right on the cusp of a whole lot of things happening. And I don't know, brace for it, prepare for it, or whatever. Do you feel that way as well? Do you feel like we're right at the edge of some change here as we get ready to start the month of August?
Yeah, I mean, there's a sense of impending change that many of us have been feeling building over the last few weeks and months, and it feels like it's about to kind of a crescendo here as we enter the late summer
the
months.
Balloon's about to pop, right? Yeah.
Yes, and you have something that really looks like convergence in so many of these different issues because it happens to be all occurring as the midterms are upon us. And that really does, even though some of our purists in the political world would say it should not matter, we should make decisions based on national security and everything else completely apolitically without the influence of politics, and that's just nonsense. Because it 100% matters. It 100% is factoring into decision making right now. And that is because it's all about power and who's going to hold on to it and who's going to get more of it and who's going to lose it. And because of that, strategic decisions are being made. And if we can say for one thing for certain is that Donald Trump is decisive. You can disagree with the decisions he makes, certainly. But one thing you probably can't disagree with is that he makes decisions. And he is not an indecisive president. And that's refreshing to a lot of people, myself included. And I expect him to make a decision on Iran, and I expect him to make it to be exactly like he has been, which is to read the room and to be decisive. He's going to do something. And frankly, I hope that he alters course a little bit and starts to see the Iranian regime for what they are. They are an ideological terrorist regime that is simply never going to be able to be negotiated with. We had a stance in this country for a very long time that we didn't, at least publicly anyway, negotiate with terrorists. And yet that's what we've been doing. And Donald Trump, for all of his genius for business dealings, that's simply probably, as we've seen and has been proven, that strategy doesn't work with somebody that is ideologically insane and is committed to essentially a suicidal path, which is exactly what the IRGC is doing. They are on a suicidal path. They know that it will cost the lives of their countrymen. They don't care. They know that it will cost infrastructure, economy, money, and treasure. They don't care. What they care about is maintaining power over the Hormuz Strait, over shipping, and the ability to hurt all of their neighbors and the global economy, essentially saying, if we can't have it, no one can. Yeah. And the president is going to do something about that, I'm convinced.
So I agree with just about everything you just said, but I agree about Donald Trump being a very decisive president, whether you agree with him or not, except that, and as you just touched on, it's taken a lot longer to make that decision with this specific issue with Iran. Why is that? Why has it taken this? Why is it the final week of July where you and I are finally having this conversation where we both feel like, okay, he's done. He's done with the games, and I finally feel confident because I really haven't up to this point, even all the things that has been said. He tricked me once a few weeks ago. I kind of thought we were about to do something and didn't, but by and large, like, I just haven't felt like, all the threats of we're going to make major military action if they don't negotiate soon. I feel like we're finally we're finally truly at that line. Why did it take this long, Justin?
Great question. And I'll just give you my layman's, everyman's take on this. But if you remember early on in the conflict in which the Ayatollah had been taken out and over 100 members of the top levels of government had been taken out, there really was a sense of momentum. And the reason for that was you had just had a public uprising. It is just my opinion, Tony, that the real solution to Iran is the people themselves. It always is. The power, whether it's in an authoritarian dictatorship or whether it's in a constitutional republic like ours, the power, the ultimate power, is always in the people because they have the numbers. And if they actually rise up, then the regime is finished. And we saw that, and then they were murdered by the tune of 40 to 50,000 in the street by the IRGC and the henchmen with the Ayatollah regime. And then we came in a little bit late. Yes, help is on the way, if you remember, right? And then we come in, and there was some momentum, and then it went off the rails. It is my opinion that Donald Trump, the president, made a decision, and according to open source reporting, the plan was perhaps leaked from the highest levels of our government to Erdogan in Turkey, who personally petitioned the president not to allow the Kurds and others to essentially form a land invasion with their people that would hopefully instigate a wholesale regime change authentically and by the people themselves. Basically go in and help the people do what they were already doing, which is rise up again, which they've done multiple times, and finally get this regime off and overthrow them and replace it with something that the people actually want. And because that didn't happen, because for whatever reasons and information that we're not privy to, the president decided not to do that. He listened to Erdogan, according to that story, and he didn't go with that route. And everything changed then, Tony. Mm-hmm. You saw all the momentum switch, and we got into this, essentially this tit for tat with the regime. It really swung the momentum back in their favor, because what we failed to realize, and maybe the administration now gets, is that you were never going to be able to achieve our objectives by air power alone. Okay? And I'm not one of these warmongers who says, well, I just want to go into war and we should go to war and we should send our troops, because I count the actual cost. The actual cost, what that actually means is that service members die, and that there's widows and that there's orphans, of which I've suffered that way in my own family. So I understand this acutely. I understand the pain that this causes. I also understand the writing on the wall. I also understand what it's going to take to deal with true evil, which is not the Iranian people, but the Iranian regime that's been in power for 47 years is truly terroristic and evil. And there's only one way to deal with that mad dog, and you got to put it down.
Yeah, and the truth is, and kind of the irony of that, of, you know, if we launch a massive military strike and we go down that road to, you know, finalize or put an end to this phase of the conflict, yeah, that is when you will get the criticisms of, you know, warmonger and all of these things and killing innocent people and all this stuff. But the truth is, and you know this, is that what we're doing right now is just as, if not more dangerous, especially in the long term. Soldiers are dying. You know, 3 at least last week, United States soldiers died in this conflict. And, you know, there's a lot of violence happening right now in that region of the world. So, and if that just continues sort of forever, like it always has in the past with every other president and every other situation where, you know, it gets real tense and but then, you know, some agreement is signed that never gets upheld and it quiets down for a couple of years, but then just fires right back up. How much toll has been done? How much damage, how much injury, how much casualties, fatalities have come from the path that we have gone down to this point, you know, that is somehow less than a military strike. I don't think that it is. So I think the truth is that that ending it once and for all with a show of military force in the long run, I think probably saves a lot more lives. What do you think?
Tony, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's an excellent analysis. This is why your show's so good, by the way, because here we are, two conservatives with libertarian leading, certainly. Heart of a libertarian is in every good conservative. And yet we have to be able to call balls and strikes. you have to be able to say that we wish for peace, we hope and pray for peace. We also understand what real evil is. That's the part that people miss out. They miss out on how to actually and what it actually takes to deal with evil. This is something I've seen very personally in police work when you're dealing with true evil. And not all suspects have that, right? But every once in a while you come across a truly evil person and you see it's a different animal that you're dealing with. It's almost inhuman. And you start realizing, extremist ideologies like radical Islam and the Ayatollahs, you're dealing with something on a whole different demonic level of darkness in which there is no logic. There is no negotiations. There is no trying to understand them. They are not like us, guys. They are not like us. They do not think like us. They aren't thinking rationally. And so you have to understand, okay, what is it actually going to take? How are we going to actually control? How are we going to take power from these people? Not to hold it for ourselves, because we're Americans, we don't do that. But how are we going to then give it to the people that can be rational, can be logical, and want the best for their people, to live a prosperous and wonderful life, a life that values other lives instead of death? And so what it's going to take is rip the Band-Aid off, do it now. It's going to be it has to be overwhelming, shocking force. And it has to be sustained. It has to be widespread. And it has to be so bad, Tony, that those that are in charge never want to taste it ever again. We've done it in this country before. We're going to have to do it again. And it's what we had to do in World War II.
Yeah,
and it's sad to say.
I was about to say the
exactly
same
what we're gonna
thing.
have to do again.
I was about to say the same thing. Certainly not a nuclear strike, but an overwhelming show of force that has no other consequence or end game than full surrender and a final end to business as usual and the things that we have been dealing with for decades in that area of the world. We got a few minutes left here with Justin Sparks before we talk to Missouri State Representative Travis Wilson, who will be with us in about 20 minutes. So I want to, Justin, if we agree that we're right on the cusp of some major changes, I want to talk about whether or not we are optimistic or pessimistic about the changes that could happen and the consequences that come from them, including and some of the things that we need to be aware of that are happening in this world as these decisions are made, including today France bashing the United States on the international stage, something regarding the UN, which I know your eyes are already rolling. I want to talk about that, and also a little bit from the Anthony Fauci diaries that we're all learning about. Just so you know, these are the things that you need to be prepared for as these big decisions and changes are coming our way. So I want to get into that as we continue the conversation with former Missouri State Representative, our law enforcement expert here on Colombo and Company, Justin Sparks, continues the conversation next.
Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter.
In the media.
1019 and 94.1.
They lying about what's going on in America. They lying about it.
News Talk STL.
Fox News commentary with Mark Thiessen. Next.
Most investments today feel like second jobs. Real estate, you're a landlord. Stocks, you're a day trader. Crypto, you're a full-time researcher. You've got a life to live. Your investment should help you live it. That's why more Americans are choosing gold. Noble Gold has helped thousands protect their future with real physical gold. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com to get your free wealth protection kit. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
Thiessen reacts to New York's mayor and other socialists taking over the Democrat Party.
They're communists. Mamdani says his philosophy is from each according to his ability to each according to his needs, which is Karl Marx's definition of communism. So yes, these people are communists. And the problem is the Democrats ran in 2020 and won the presidency with Joe Biden by promising to be moderate. He promised to reach across the aisle and work with Republicans and bring the country together. And instead what he did is he handed his administration over to the far left. And so the far left looks at that and says, we want more. We're not satisfied with a Trojan horse presidency. We want a real communist in charge. And so they are engaged in a hostile takeover of the Democratic Party, much like the MAGA movement engaged in a hostile takeover of the Republican Party, except MAGA loves America. These people hate America.
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
The radical left let crime and drugs pour into our nation, and they let biological men into girls' sports. But here in Missouri, if there's a problem, we fix it. That's why Ann Wagner's fixing the mess the radical left made and delivering for us. Wagner voted to ban biological men from competing in girls' sports. And she voted to fund the police and provide more resources for Border Patrol agents, keeping our families, communities, and children safe. And Ann Wagner didn't stop there. In Congress, Wagner passed the largest working-class tax cut in American history, kept big government out of our business, protected our way of life, and ensured our communities remain safe. That's why Ann Wagner's endorsed by the Missouri Farm Bureau and Missouri Fraternal Order of Police. Vote Ann Wagner for Congress on August 4th.
I'm Ann Wagner, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Ann Wagner for Congress.
News Talk STL is celebrating our 5th birthday. And we're giving away a limited edition News Talk STL America 250 t-shirts. It's exclusive, it's collectible, and it could be yours. Just head to newstalkstl.com to register.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, News Talk.
Been listening since day one. Happy birthday to my talk station.
5 years, happy birthday.
News Talk STL.
News Talk STL. Happy birthday to us, and good luck to you.
When Donald Trump needs conservative votes to help pass his agenda for Missouri, Representative Trisha Burns never answers the call. Trisha Burns has missed 370 votes. Burns is bucking President Trump's priorities. Burns did not vote to stop DEI initiatives, prevent China from owning Missouri land, defund Planned Parenthood, and Burns did not vote to ban boys from girls' sports. Trisha Burns not showing up for Missouri and President Trump. Instead, Trisha Burns spends her time pulling pranks on the suicide prevention hotline. Yes, you heard that right. Trisha Burns lied to the police and staged a fake suicide emergency. She sent a series of messages to the hotline and said she, quote, had a gun to her head, end quote. When she got caught, she said there'd be no consequences because she's a politician. By August 4th, vote to show Trisha Burns that there are consequences to being bad at your job.
Let's Go Brandon PAC paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Chris Foss, Treasurer.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
With Larry Connors USA, you get news, analysis, commentary, education, and the story behind the story.
Larry Connors USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.994.1 News Talk STL. Continuing the conversation with former Missouri State Representative Justin Sparks. Justin, we literally heated up the conversation in that first half, that last segment, because as I mentioned at the beginning of the 3 o'clock hour, the heat index was 111. I just checked, according to the KMOV weather app, it's now 113. So we literally turned up the heat in the last 20 minutes here. So thanks as always for your time, my friend. We're talking about where we're at right now with so many issues, with the election in Missouri right around the corner, with it feeling like we are at a a turning point with the conflict in Iran and in many other areas. That's what we talked about in that last segment. If you missed it, to kind of bring us to this point, if we are indeed, Justin, about to see some changes in many areas, whether it be locally or nationally or internationally, how do we feel about it? Are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic about these changes? And for right now, let's kind of stick with Iran in general. Are you optimistic that the president is indeed going to finally make that decision to get out of the negotiation, spinning our wheels, sort of the same thing over and over again, and maybe launching making this more of a military action? Do you feel like that's going to happen, and do you feel optimistic about the direction that we're in right now?
That's a great question. The short answer is yes, but my optimism is probably slightly different and based on slightly different things than most people would assume. And here's how I'll tell you. Here's how I'll explain it. I'm optimistic because I think that the president, when it finally comes down time to make a decision, from the things that he has said his entire adult life, I think he understands exactly, really, truly what Iran is and what they will do if they get a nuclear weapon. I don't think that those threats are empty. I think that they absolutely, desperately are desiring and scheming to get a nuclear weapon. I think that if they are allowed to stay in power, that they will, in fact, develop one. I think that is their overall goal. It always has been, and I believe that they will use it. They are an apocalyptic death cult. When I used to train and kind of mentor young policemen, I would tell them to go with what you know and listen to what the suspect is saying. Too often we would disregard it and disregard what a bad guy was saying, and that is to your peril. Listen to what they say. If they say they're going to do something, believe them. Don't take it as an empty threat. And that's why exactly what I think the president is going to do with Iran. And I think he's going to finally understand that even though it may be politically harmful or destructive and it may impact the midterms, it has come to us. It has come to him as a president. It has come to us as a generation. It is an existential threat to the American way, our cultures and our values continuing to impact the world stage. And this is going to come to a head. And I think that he's going to do what is necessary. I'm optimistic because that is exactly what is necessary for our way of life to endure. Sadly, that is going to mean pain. Mm-hmm. That is going to mean sacrifice on the part of all of us. And it is going to be incumbent, Tony, this has never been more important, for us to heal the divides that are so obvious in our country right now, ideologically and politically, and to come together and to get past stupid Trump derangement syndrome because you don't like the guy or his politics or the fact that he's a troll on Twitter, and he is a world-class troll. You have to look past these things and understand that we're talking about an existential threat that is literally threatening our way of life in the future for our children. And we have to understand that. We have to deal with it appropriately. We have to do it together. And I'm hopeful that is actually going to take place.
You nailed a couple of really important things there. And just to point out again, I agree. And, and that's what the fear of the pain and, the intensity of launching a military attack and, the war that comes along with that. But as we talked about in the first segment, the truth of the matter is that pain and suffering is already happening. And it's just prolonged if you don't do something about it. We touched on that a moment ago. Another thing that I think stands out from what you were just saying there is that how it is time to come together, that anytime there's a major military conflict on the world stage, that it's time to unite. And that is one of the biggest problems with the current state of the Democratic Party, the political left, the extreme progressives. And I think it's important because, we have these elections coming up, not only in Missouri, but the general midterm elections in November. A lot of big decisions are going to be made, and it's important to, make sure you understand, everybody understands, the way that these people think. They cannot separate anything. They cannot separate the issues or have individual conversations about the issues. It's all or nothing. It's in or out. They hate Donald Trump. They hate Republicans. They hate conservatives. They hate libertarians. And they don't see anything. They don't see one issue differently than another. They cannot agree or try to support a military action on the international stage because that somehow invalidates in their minds, their debate about boys playing women's sports. You know what I mean? Like they just cannot, they cannot do it. And that's one of the biggest dangers and problems with that mindset and the way that the current political extreme left thinks, and that people need to realize that they can't do it. They cannot agree. If Donald Trump said this puppy is cute and held it up on camera, the Democrats would not be able to bring themselves to say, you're right, that is a cute puppy, because they can't do it. Even if it's something totally different than the issues that they're currently working on. And that's a dangerous mindset, and something that I hope people have are taking with them as they make their votes, not only in Missouri and next week, but across the country in November. Your thoughts?
It's a loss of objective reality, and it's a loss of objective reality on every single level. And this is how we can understand and confirm that's true, is because, just like you said, if President Trump comes out and says the sky's blue, they're going to disagree with it. And even though that's objectively true, it's self-evidently true. You can see it with your own eyes. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And
it doesn't change the way you think on another issue. Like, it doesn't mean that you can't argue or debate another issue, but they just can't do it. Sorry, but they just can't do it. They just can't do it.
No, you made my point exactly. That's the whole point, is the fact that they can't separate the fact that the sky is blue from political reality, is that maybe you can disagree with somebody on one point and have an objective reality discussion on another point, and they simply can't do it. The baby is out with the bathwater. Objective reality is a thing of the past. Men can be women. Women can be men. Biology doesn't matter anymore. Genetic codes don't matter anymore. Feelings matter more than objective truth. And when that happens, you've lost. Yeah. There's no middle ground there. What we have to do is understand that that's an extreme minority within our country, and the mainstream middle, whether center left or center right, disagrees with that point of view, and the fact that objective reality is still legitimate and important, and truth is still obviously what we should be aspiring to. All of us should. And that is really the key. You have to call it out and say, no, that's fringe, that's nonsense, and that's not going to be a part of our main public discourse any longer. And yes, what might not like the person in the White House, but I certainly don't want any harm on him or his family. I don't care if it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And that's the main core difference between conservatives and progressives.
Absolutely. And it's such an important thing to remember when you are voting, that mindset, it is what you will be up against, or what will be in control if you don't, if you vote that way, or you don't vote, and allow that to happen. It's so important. It's so important to remember that. So before we have to wrap up the conversation for this week, man, time flies when you're having fun and you're talking about these really important issues, Justin. Same question that I've asked you probably every week for the last couple months, and I'll ask you every week moving forward before the August elections and then the November midterms, with all of this in mind, do you feel like the message is getting out to the voters in general? Do you feel like the message and the exposing of this dangerous path that the left would take us down is getting out there and making a difference? Where's the momentum right now as we get even closer to the midterms?
Yeah, so I'm actually really hopeful because the electorate has continued to waken up. They have continued to finally understand just how important they are, that every vote matters, to be engaged, to actually start doing research on what their elected representatives, senators, and everybody else in between are actually doing, the special interests that they pay attention to, the special interests that sometimes they're bought and paid for, all of the stories we've talked about. I'm hopeful because that awakening is still occurring. I'm just, this is just the critical time now in order to shepherd that momentum. And if the Republicans don't pass the SAVE Act, they deserve to lose, because that's exactly what's going to happen. You have the main issue. It's set up. It's teed up. And if Leader Thune cannot find the intestinal fortitude to buck the special interest that he's been beholden to for his entire career, what got him into power in the first place, he has to understand this is it for him. He will either be swept into the dustbin of history as a weak and ineffectual leader, or he will do the right thing and he will pass the SAVE Act.
And look at this transition. You mentioned the special interests. If we don't vote yes on Amendment 4 1 week from tomorrow, and we continue to give the power and influence to the special interests across the state of Missouri, across the country, that come into Missouri to get these things done, we're gonna put ourselves on a path that doesn't lead to success. So it's so perfect that is the message, not only on the national stage, but is going to play a massive role in the August primary elections across the state of Missouri, which are just 1 week away, 1 week from tomorrow. Justin Sparks, really appreciate your time as always, my friend. Look forward to talking to you again soon. Have a great rest of your day.
God bless you, brother.
Yeah, back at you, buddy. That is former Missouri State Representative Justin Sparks. And speaking of Amendment 4 and these August elections that are 1 week from tomorrow, current Missouri State Representative Travis Wilson joins us live in studio to talk about these all-important elections that are just over a week away. Next here on Colombo Company.
Follow Tony Colombo on Twitter at Tony Colombo Talk.
It's Vic Porcelli. We're sitting here with our great friend, Chris Cooper. Hi, Chris.
What's going on, Vic? How are you?
I hear you wrote another book. This one's an e-book. Is that right?
The Business Owner's Playbook for Financial Clarity. So it is a great book for entrepreneurs. It's a very short guide. Give people, business owners, the ability to understand key questions that are important, such as succession planning, legacy planning, getting the IRS out of our pockets, right? Because do you like paying taxes?
I do not.
I don't think anybody likes paying taxes, right? That just makes sense. And then always talking about protection. And then the other thing from a business owner perspective, what is the biggest asset a business owner has? Probably their business itself, right? We need to make sure we understand what the value of that business is as well.
So this new book, I'm sure, is incredibly expensive, right? How much?
No, it's a free resource.
Oh, it's free.
We provide guidance, we provide education, because we want to make sure people feel educated and understanding, because sometimes you don't know what questions to ask, and we need to make sure we help arm people with information to ask the right question.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Bill, you're an old politician.
Yup, sure am.
So you know the old-timers warned that someone trying to sell you a pig in a poke was a con man.
Well, sure.
Well, no offense, Tom, but your politician's Amendment 5 is a pig in a poke, allowing politicians to raise our taxes without a vote of the people, and the politician's Amendment 4 takes away our power to do anything about it. Well, let's look at what's really inside 4 and 5.
Oh, don't do that.
5 hits hardest seniors and those struggling financially with new taxes on services like doctor visits, in-home care, and rent. Sales taxes could more than triple. For up to 80% of Missourians, it's a tax hike. And Amendment 4 ends majority rule, allowing a minority of the most liberal statewide voters in one district to effectively end our power to stop corruption and out-of-control spending and taxing.
Slick plan, huh?
No, Tom, 4 and 5 are schemes that hurt citizens and transfer our power and our money to politicians and lobbyists. That's why I'm voting no on the Politicians' Amendments 4 and 5, paid for by Missourians for Fair Governance.
Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. Woo, what a busy day today. Kicking off what is going to be a very busy week here, the last week of July, the last week before the August primary elections here in Missouri. Those elections are 1 week from tomorrow. That is crazy that we are this close to those August elections, and obviously we're going to continue to focus on a lot of these issues as we go through the week, and we're going to do that right now with Travis Wilson, Missouri State Representative, is back in studio with us. I figured you pick a day where it's 120 degrees outside. Might be the one day this week that you're not outside knocking on doors, talking to voters, so it's a perfect day to bring you into the studio. Great to see you.
You as well, Tony. Thank you so much for the time, as always.
So, I know you like to be out there, hitting the streets, hitting the pavement, talking to voters, but I truly think that on a day like today, your shoes might melt off if you tried to do that.
It's something. As I was walking in, I think I saw somebody cooking their lunch on the sidewalk.
Very seriously.
Yes.
But, I know that despite the heat, you have been out there and continue to talk to voters. I ask you this every time we talk, and I'm going to continue to ask you this, especially, leading up to the elections next week. What are you hearing from voters? Are they... do they realize the seriousness? Do they realize the impact of next week's elections? And are you optimistic that we're going to see educated and decent voter turnout next week?
Well, I'll answer your last question first, and that is I'm always optimistic. Always, always, always. I like to think of myself as Mr. Sunshine, and I am always hopeful about our potential outcomes. Doesn't mean that I'm sort of oblivious to the reality that we live in or the climate that we live in. And to that point, I would say, as I've been out knocking on doors, and this has been a great campaign season, quite honestly. Just talking to thousands of voters, getting their input about what is on their minds, and I generally ask them a pretty simple question. I say, "What do you want me to be thinking about in our state capitol?" And people are surprisingly informed, and they'll tell you exactly what they want. They want to make sure that we're working together, that we're getting things done, and we're getting things done for the people of Missouri, that we're doing things like passing tax cuts, such as the capital gains tax cut. A lot of people may not have even realized, but we passed one of the largest tax cuts in Missouri's history. I was proud to be a part of that, voting for the capital gains tax cut. Things that are also on people's minds, because I generally also ask them, I say, we've got this big election coming up on August 4th. Do you have any questions? Are you all set? Have you looked at your ballot? And that usually leads to a whole nother part of the conversation where people can say, I was thinking about, and it's fill in the blank. I was thinking about Amendment 4, about Amendment 5. I was thinking about our county executive race in St. Charles County. I was thinking about our director of elections race. And, do you know these judges that I'm thinking about as well? All different types of things that are on the ballot.
Mm-hmm. I was just indicating to her that the television was being weird and to get it back on. Sorry, I wasn't trying to send you hand signals there, but you hit on so many important things there. And, I'm going to harp on this all week, especially now. I mean, I know I've already been doing it, but it's going to get a lot worse because I just feel like the message has not been represented enough or properly when it comes to Amendment 4. If you don't vote yes on 4, you're just continuing to hand the power and influence over the Missouri Constitution to the well-funded special interest groups.
It's true.
And
it's absolutely true. And it's a concern.
Mm-hmm.
It's a concern. It's a real concern. And it's not just a concern. We like to, as voters, it's often easy to look at the picture that is in front of us right now. We're not backing up and seeing the big picture. And the big picture for the state of Missouri is really simple. Our Missouri Constitution has continued to evolve with the whims of special interests. And so that's something that I think is very much sort of a glaring red flag that we need to address.
Mm-hmm.
And I was quite pleased. Anytime I've been in the legislature for 4 years now, anytime that they put an IP reform bill in front of me, I vote for it. Always have, always will. I'm hoping that I won't have to in the future because I'm hoping that Amendment 4 will take care of it.
Me too.
But it's something that we as Republicans have had to really go out there and present a united front and present a sort of a stoic face, if you will, because there is a lot of criticism, and people are saying you're going to end majority rule, and that's really not the case. This is a matter of fairness. This is a matter of making sure that all Missourians' voices are heard, and I, for one, am very pleased to have been a part of helping bring it to the ballot, and I'm going to continue to try my best to help it get across the finish line.
Well, it took this long. It took years to get to this process, to get this finally on the ballot. And if we have to go back to fighting for IP reform, I can't even imagine how long it may take to get another chance at it. So let's not make that mistake and vote yes on 4. That is my very strong opinion. You mentioned taking a look at your ballot. I want to remind folks, you can go to our website, newstalkstl.com, and you can see the ballot right now. You can see your specific ballot by putting in your address and pulling up your exact ballot so you can see exactly what you'll be voting on. You can read the language on you can see what races you're going to be, that are going to be on your ballot and get a better understanding of exactly what you will be voting on 1 week from tomorrow on August 4th. I know, call me old-fashioned. I'm used to voting on Election Day. But there are early voting opportunities across the state of Missouri, and that's been open for a while now. And sometimes the turnout on the early voting can be a gauge of how, what Election Day is going to look like as far as voter turnout is concerned. Have we heard anything about early voting turnout? Has it been a lot? Has it been not much? What do we know?
Yes. So speaking in terms of St. Charles County, because I'm clearly more familiar being from the city of St. Charles, District 106, northern half of the city of St. Charles. So do vote for Travis Wilson if you live in the northern half of the city of St. Charles. But being from St. Charles County, I can tell you that from at least at my location, which is at Element Church right by the Sam's Club there in St. Charles, right off of Veterans Memorial Parkway. And they're open all this week from 9 to 3, Monday through Friday, so go by, cast your ballot. But you can also cast it at the Election Authority, which I'm sure is a similar situation here in St. Louis County as well. When I last checked, it could have moved, but when I last knew where the Election Authority was in St. Louis County, it was over off of Sun Inn Drive, which is close to Maplewood, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And so that would be where you could check it out in St. Louis County. But in St. Charles County, we have 3 locations: the Election Authority itself, Element Church that I already mentioned, and there's also a satellite location at the Meadows, and so in Lake St. Louis.
Yeah.
And so that's Mike Coslow's district. So shout out to the big dog. I absolutely love Mike Coslow. And if you live in Lake St. Louis, please vote for Mike Coslow as well. He's a great friend of mine. But point being that yes, there is a lot of voters that are already visiting those locations. I think the Element Church location I mentioned is like 300 per day.
Wow.
So that's when I checked last week. So I saw a couple of different posts out there. Kurt Barr, our election authority, who has always done a great job, he has been putting that out on his through his social media outlets. That information. So you can always go to the St. Charles County Election Authority website. Just Google St. Charles County Election Authority. It'll pull it up. You can get more information about that. I assume it'd be the same thing for the St. Louis Election Authority. So, yes, you have the opportunity. Take advantage of the opportunity. You can get it done. You don't have to wait until Election Day, because what happens if you wake up and you have a flat tire? Or what happens if your child's sick? Things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty much with all things elections, you can also go to the Secretary of State website. That'll almost always get you where you need to be. And again, when it comes to if you want to look at your ballot ahead of time, you can go to our website, newstalkstl.com, and check out a sample ballot so you know exactly what you'll be voting on in a week. I'm sure we're going to talk to you again. Got a few minutes left here with Missouri State Representative Travis Wilson. I'm sure we're going to talk again even before the elections and try to unpack even more of these issues. But with the few minutes that we have left here, speaking specifically about your area in St. Charles and in St. Charles County, outside of the statewide issues like Amendment 4 and 5 that we touched on, is there any commonality between the concerns of the local people in St. Charles about the issues that they are most worried about or most want you to address in Jeff City in the coming in the coming session, outside of the statewide issues like the local issues? Is there anything that you're hearing, over and over
Absolutely.
again?
Absolutely. So one of the local issues that is really important to St. Charles County, there was a bill that was carried by my colleague Rich West, who is from Western St. Charles County. He's another rep. And
co-host of St. Charles Patriot Radio right here on News Talk STL. Go
there
ahead.
you go. There you go. Absolutely. You guys know him. You love him. It is exactly as it should be. And so Rich carried a bill to move the school board elections from April to November. And that is incredibly important. And so you asked me specifically about local things in St. Charles County. The reason why
that's a big one. Go ahead.
It is. You're exactly right. And the reason why I was so keen on voting for that particular bill is because that's a game changer for us in St. Charles County. We need to make sure that our school boards are working well for our districts. And I believe that moving those elections gives the opportunity for more people to be engaged, more people taking a look at the issues affecting our school districts, and it helps hold those school boards more accountable. And so I think that's the type of thing that we definitely want more of, more accountability, more transparency in St. Charles County. And so I was pleased to vote for it. Not everybody, believe it or not everybody agrees about this, Tony.
Yeah.
Not everybody thinks we should make that
It's
move.
probably the people that are getting away with, all of the liberal victories that we've seen on those April elections. Travis, we're just about out of time. As always, I really appreciate your time unpacking these issues, all the time spent in the community talking to the voters about these issues. If people want to learn more about you and your platform and your campaign, best way to do so.
3 ways. The first and foremost, my personal cell phone number, 314-540-1965. Give me a call. I want to talk. I'm always accessible. If you call me late at night, I stay up. If you call me at midnight, we might very well have a conversation. So give me a call. I'm always available. Number 2, you can go to my campaign website, which is Wilson for St. Charles, and that is wilsonforstc.com, WILSONFORSTC.com. And the third and final way you can get a hold of me is reach out to me through Facebook. Look for Wilson for St. Charles on Facebook. I'm always available. Thank you so much for the time, Tony. It was good to be here.
Thank you, Travis. Great stuff. Keep it here. Tim and Chris next.
Since 1857, Brannicky Hardware in Bridgeton has been solving the problems the big box stores can't. 5 generations of family ownership, nearly 170 years of friendly, knowledgeable service, helping you find the right part the first time. From one of the area's largest selections of plumbing repair parts to paint, lawn and garden, electrical, and power tools. Plus, they're your authorized steel dealer and service center. Shop local. Brannicky True Value Hardware on the Rock Road in Bridgeton and at BrannickyHardware.com.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
You recall Seattle was one of the U.S. cities hosting World Cup competition. For world visitors, Seattle appeared sparkling clean. The streets were cleaner, homeless encampments moved out of public places. Seattle's open-air drug use just disappeared. But as a Seattle broadcaster noted, When the final whistle of the final match in Seattle blew, all of that returned. He said Seattle didn't help anyone. It just managed the optics. And remember, before she took office, the mayor had urged residents you should boycott Starbucks.